Welcome, friends. What if I told you Russia is helping Iran fight a war without actually fighting? Right now, world prices are unstable, global trade is shaking, and your petrol bill in India is directly tied to what's happening in the Gulf. This is not just geopolitics. This is your economy, your inflation, your future. To decode this, we have someone who understands not just Russia, not just Iran, but the entire architecture of this emerging multipolar world. Someone who can connect the battlefield to the balance of power. Join me to welcome Dr. Aditya Ji, President of the Council for Strategic Affairs. Aditya Ji, welcome to Global Focus again.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Sinha, for inviting me yet again on Global Focus. I look forward to an interesting conversation with you.
Yes, sir, sure. So let me start straight. Russia and Iran signed a 20-year strategic partnership, 47 articles, massive cooperation. But when Iran was attacked, Russia didn't fire a single shot. So tell me, is this a real alliance or just a smart survival strategy?
I think we need to understand what was signed. This strategic partnership agreement was signed in 2025. Yes, it has 47 clauses, but it does not bring anything else except for what was already happening in the relationship between Russia and Iran. If we see, both these countries were ostracized by the so called West for years. And after Ukraine war, Russia was further sanctioned, isolated, and Iran has perpetually faced sanctions since the Ayatollah crazy took over. So when everyone is putting sanctions on you, you will find like-minded partners. And that is what was happening. Having said that, because of the changing geopolitical situations, it was decided by both countries that yes, let's have a formal strategic partnership agreement. Now, despite its 47 clauses, there's no mutual defense assistance clause in that. So it's not a military alliance. Most of the people have this naive belief that if you have a strategic partnership agreement, well, you will put all your resources into defending your partner. No, it doesn't work like that. There has to be a military alliance, and it is not a military alliance. Yes, Iran helped Russia even before signing this partnership agreement by supplying thousands of drones, Shahid drones, during Ukraine war, till this US and Israeli attack on Iran. What Russia did that it adopted, further modified these drones using advanced technology. And now Russia is supplying Iran with the same drones, but they are much more better, much more enhanced, much more improved. Russia is also providing satellite intelligence, cyber capabilities, all those kind of things. So, yes, there is a strategic partnership, but there is no mutual defense clause. And you have to understand this 20-year agreement was signed in 2025. Understand what was happening. December 2024, Syria collapsed. Bashar al Assad regime collapsed. He fled to Moscow. What did Russia do? Did it come to assistance of Syria? It was a closer partner than Iran. Syria was also a partner of Iran. They had a treaty relationship. So you did not see that if a superpower is involved in one country, second superpower coming directly to fight a war. That has been there since World War II. That two major superpowers, United States and the Soviet Union never fought a direct war head to head, for combat operations. Yes, they use their proxies. So this is the same thing happening. Russia or the Russian Federation will not join the direct war in assistance of Iran, but they will do anything else to support the Iranian regime, and they are doing. And it's not just Russian Federation that is doing that. There's another 800-pound gorilla, which is China. China is doing the same. They issue statements. They don't provide any direct military contribution in this war, but they are providing indirect technological support. They are continuing to buy Iran's oil. They are continuing to buy other things from Iran and supplying other things. They are, trying to bypass the Western sanctions by reflagging the tankers and things like that. So, in my mind, it was somewhat naive to think that Russia will jump into the war directly. Russia is already constrained by Ukraine war. But the point is very well taken that the countries that have been ostracized either by US or by the West, including the Europe, are coming together. Sometimes people call it partnership of authoritarians or autocratic partnerships, but that's the reality. Like begets like, country that are facing aggression, hostility, or intimidation from quote unquote established powers will come to each other's assistance, mutual trade, educational assistance, technological assistance, and that is what is happening. Russia also had similar kind of relationship with Venezuela. Iran also had a partnership with Venezuela, but what happened? They didn't come to direct military assistance of either Maduro or Syria. There is a new quad going on which is called CRINC. CRINC stands for
Yeah.
China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. It is an informal relationship. It is not a military alliance like NATO or what would have been what is called Warsaw Pact or what had been SEATO or CENTO. Those were military alliances. These are not military alliances. These are strategic groupings of like minded countries that are facing pressure from the established Western imperial order as a survival strategy. So you see the same things written in the Russia Iran Strategic Partnership Agreement. Yes, 47 articles are there to enhance mutual cooperation, trade, bilateral relationships, but there's no mutual defense clause.
Now just look at this. Iran is hitting Gulf infrastructure, and Russia is still doing 12 billion trade with the UAE. So the question is Russia loyal to anyone or just loyal to opportunity?
Well, every country is loyal to itself. And that's the dictum in geopolitics. You guard your own national interests. You're not going to sacrifice your own national interests. Look at India. We call it multi-alignment. We have good relations with Iran, but we also have good relations with Israel. We try to foster good relations with United States, but United States has better relations with Pakistan. It has used Pakistan as a kind of client state. Would we, rupture diplomatic relationship with United States just because they have supported since 1947 Pakistan as a client state? No. There are no zero sums in geopolitics and international relations, and Russia is doing the same. Wherever they can get benefit for their own national interests, yes, they will.
But the twist is here. Putin is offering to mediate peace while being accused of helping Iran behind the scenes. So can one country be both a referee and a silent player?
This has always been there. Currently, if you look at the so-called mediator or interlocutor Pakistan, what is Pakistan's credibility to be the mediator in this war? They are totally one-sided. They are under the US control. They are essentially a client state of United States. They
Mm.
claim to have good relations with Iran, but on the other hand, they had attacked Iran in January of 2024. Uh, and Iranians don't trust Pakistan, yet Pakistan is playing the role of a host and a mediator and interlocutor. So Putin is using this opportunity to show that he has goodwill for the world, entire world. He is a peacemonger, not a peacemaker, not a warmonger, unlike Donald Trump. So he is getting brownie points in international relations by offering to be the mediator and to establish peace. There's nothing wrong with that.
So let's talk money because wars are not just fought with weapons. They are funded by opportunity.
Hmm.
Oil prices spike and suddenly Russia earns more.
Hmm.
So here is the uncomfortable question. Is Russia quietly benefiting from this war?
Well, Russia is indirectly benefiting because of the silly actions of United States. There are reports from 1981 onwards in the press, in the international press, that if Islamic regime in Iran is pressed too much, they will block the Strait of Hormuz.
Mm.
Why previous presidents of United States did not, get into direct clash with Iran? It was
Mm.
the same thing because in every war scenario, in every simulation of a conflict, the military experts came out with this thing that it's not worth it because in the long run it's going to bite United States and its economy because the choke point of Strait of Hormuz cannot be avoided. Most of the other presidents were circumspect. In fact, John Kerry, the former Secretary of State of United States, has said
Mm.
that Benjamin Netanyahu approached previous American administrations, starting with George W. Bush, Barack Hussein Obama, and Joe Biden's administrations, for attacking Iran in cahoot with Israel, and all the administrations refused except for Trump because they had seasoned diplomats working with them. This administration has oligarchs, real estate developers as mediators and cabinet secretaries. So the quality of your members of the administration, the cabinet secretaries, and the quality of the person who is leading the cognitive abilities that you have, swallowed a hot potato in your mouth and you don't know what to do it. You cannot spit it out and you cannot actually totally ingest it. So the war in West Asia by United States has become a geopolitical hot potato. And you see it in the sort of course of events. Initially, it was said that within 2, 3 days the regime will collapse. Didn't happen. 2 weeks, then 4 weeks, then 4 to 6 weeks.
Mm.
We are 2 months into this conflict, in this war. It was touted as an excursion because the Trump regime wanted to avoid congressional approval. You need congressional approval for starting a war within 60 days. And those 60 days will be over in the next 4 days. So it shows the bankruptcy of the US administration, how that country is being governed, and how impulsive, strategically self defeating decisions are taken. That is what is happening here. It was predicted, and yes, the beneficiary is Russia. So Russia is not kind of benefiting at the expense of Iran. Russia is benefiting because of stupidness of the US administration.
So not ending the war too fast, not escalating it too much, just enough chaos. Is that Russia's perfect scenario?
It's not Russia's perfect scenario. It is the helplessness situation of the mighty hyperpower It
Mm,
finds itself, it's begging other countries to open the Strait of Hormuz. It's begging everyone from China to European Union to Russia to India to everyone
mm,
to help open the Strait of Hormuz.
yeah.
And nobody is coming to the assistance. So it's not what Russia intends to do or what Russia wishes for. It is an artificial situation which was avoidable, which was not necessary, that has been created by the actions of Israel and United States working in cahoots with each other, trying to destabilize the West Asia by trying to take out the Islamic theocracy in Iran. Let me be very clear. Nobody loves this Islamic theocracy in Iran. But any external intervention actually solidifies the regime because there's rally to the flag. It generates nationalistic instincts. If you kill 168 schoolgirls, do you think any country, the citizens of any country, will love the aggressor? That you are the liberator by killing our 168 schoolgirls? Just imagine what is happening here and why the Islamic regime, despite having been militarily contained and its infrastructure getting decimated, is still able to survive and look the aggressor in the eye. They have leverage on Strait of Hormuz, and despite the US blockade, they are US is still not able to bring the status quo ante in the international commerce because effectively, whether you are blocking Iran or not, you are not having normal container traffic through Strait of Hormuz. It's not just Iranian oil or Iranian supplies are being blocked. The container ship captains, they are very wary. The insurances are not willing to insure. So you don't have normal trade, mercantile operations going through Strait of Hormuz. And looks like because of United States penchant for not accepting strategic defeat, they will continue to prolong this blockade. So international economy will continue to be affected. And yes, in that process, Russia will continue to benefit because their oil will be sold at a premium while there were sanctions and there were like price caps introduced by the US and European Union and NATO after 2022, and certain countries were sanctioned or tariffs were put, like on India, 50% tariff for purchasing Russian oil. What
Mm.
is happening? In May, in March and April, India purchased more oil from Russia, not even at discount.
Here is something,
Every,
yeah, yeah,
everyone makes hay when the sun shines. I
yeah.
don't blame Russian Federation for that.
And here is something people are missing. When the US focuses on Iran, Ukraine gets less attention. So is this war indirectly helping Russia in Ukraine?
See what is happening that all the US resources are now tied towards West Asia.
Yeah.
US under Biden administration had this folly of supporting a comedian in Ukraine, and US taxpayer was paying basically for this Ukraine war. It was not Ukraine Russia war, it was NATO US Russia war. The battlefield was Ukraine. And when Trump came, he started to change the equation by saying that US will not pay, Europeans can buy our arms. So US was making money by selling arms to European countries and NATO countries, and they were supplying to Ukraine. Now, what is happening that all the supplies are depleted, ammunitions are depleted, US has nothing left. Why do you think is this extended ceasefire and extended pause? Because if you have run out of your interceptors, if you need four interceptors for one drone, or one ballistic missile, there's a physical limit. So yes, the West, whether you include US, EU, and NATO, are not able to support Ukraine to the extent they were doing much earlier. Now, what has happened that over 4 years of war, Ukraine has also hardened. They've also, advanced drones production domestically.
Yeah.
So it's not that, it is one-way street for Russia to occupy the whole country. Russia has not been there. Russia is actually bogged down in a quagmire. They have not been able to get the two eastern provinces fully, Donbass and the other one. Uh, but bottom line is that yes, the West is distracted, and nobody is talking about peace process or ceasefire in
Mhm.
Ukraine-Russia war because all the attention is now diverted towards the West Asian war, which has become a regional war in which there are multiple countries involved because that was to be expected.
So now this is where the story changes. Russia says it wants peace. It supports ceasefire talks. But at the same time, it refuses to condemn Iran's action fully. So let me ask you directly, does Russia actually want peace or does it benefit more from instability?
So first you have to clarify what do you mean by Russia does not condemn Iran's actions fully. What has Iran done? What actions you are talking about? Is it the domestic policy of Iran, politics of Iran? Because Iran is not the aggressor country here.
Yeah,
The
this is,
aggressor countries are Israel and United States.
yes.
And Russia has condemned both Israel and United States. Why should Russia condemn the victim of aggression? So what action, Iran's action, you want Russia to condemn?
The suppressing this, the uprising within the country, the killing of the
Well,
military.
well, that was in month of January. And remember, Russia is also an autocracy like Iran, and they use firm state power to quell any rebellion. And this war is not about January rebellion or January uprising. No, that was not the rationale. I think we are confusing the issues here. I don't see any reason why Russia should condemn Iran for its defensive posture in the current West Asian theater of war.
Because if Iran makes peace with the US, it won't need Russia as much anymore. And that changes everything.
Issue is that will the current regime or administration Iran enter into a peace deal with a US administration that is known for impulsivity, unpredictability, and lack of any moral qualm. If the president of a country is changing his mind 10 times a day
Yeah.
and three times in one single sentence, what is the guarantee that they will not change their mind again?
Mm,
In June 2025, for 12 days, Israel and United States pounded Israel
mm.
and claimed that their nuclear program has been decimated. It has been buried. There is no threat of nuclear weaponization from Iran. What happened? So, why would any country negotiate a peace deal which is worth the price of toilet paper? I mean, countries that have signed bilateral trade agreements for trade reduction from United States are facing the same situation because the president of United States does not honor any deal he made. And he keeps on threatening every day new tariffs on this, new tariffs on that. So even traditional allies like Canada and Mexico of United States are very wary of having any agreement signed because there's no guarantee that that agreement will prevail. So the scenario that Iran and United States get into bed and that will be too harmful to Russia, I think is a far-fetched scenario, because what Iran is trying to do is to just survive, and mere survival of Iran is taken as a strategic leverage or strategic victory, although military defeat. And they are looking for basically 2.5 years to let this regime, which is basically now a rogue superpower and a rogue democracy, to go into oblivion when the next democratic elections happen in United States and a new president takes over. Unfortunately, the life of a US administration is only 4 years. And if drastic measures are taken, then the surest survival strategy for any country is to ride the assault, ride the aggression for remaining term. And if the midterm elections in US are held in November in a free and fair manner, and I'm saying free and fair manner because there are questions there, it is very unlikely that the party that supports the president or president's party will win the midterm elections. Most opinion polls are saying they are going to lose definitely the House of Representatives and possibly the Senate. They may not get absolute majority in Senate. They may be just like plurality, 51 to 49 or something like that. In that scenario, what will happen? The power to declare war will be gone, because if House of Representatives is controlled by the other party, they will start impeachment proceedings. They will, you know, pass some law or some bill that will curtail the ability to indulge in an prolonged war in West Asia. So, from Iranian perspective, strategically, your options are just to ride it over till the administration in Washington, D.C. changes the leadership. And that will happen either by a presidential election in next 2.5 years, or if the political control goes to the other party that is not Trump's party, taking over the House of Representatives and possibly Senate.
So let's bring this home. A huge chunk of India's oil passes through Hormuz. 8 million Indians living in the Gulf states. So this war is personal for India. India buys oil from Russia, works with Iran in regional forums, partners with the US and Iraq. So is India mastering multi-alignment or slowly walking into a situation where it will have to choose?
Look, although I have some agreement with the statements you made, but I will still reiterate, India has no skin in the game in this West Asian war. Yes, we have trade relationships with almost all the Gulf countries, significant trade relationships. Yes, a bulk of our energy supply comes from Strait of Hormuz. That is true. But as an adaptive measure, India has diversified sources of its hydrocarbons. As I told you that in March and April, India has purchased massive amount of hydrocarbons from Russia. India is also purchasing now hydrocarbons from Venezuela. India is purchasing from Niger and some of the countries in Africa. India is purchasing, petroleum and crude from Guyana. So there is an attempt to diversify from wherever you can, satisfy your country's needs. Yes, it's an unfortunate situation. From India's perspective, it is not good because it's not 8 million, it's 9 million actually people of Indian origin that live in Gulf countries and make a living and all that sort of thing. And yes, some of them will come back. So that affects the situation. But it does not mean that India should succumb to indirect pressure or direct pressure from any of the aggressive, warring parties or parties that created that situation. So, yes, it is a test for India's policy of strategic independence and multi alignment because this war, the outcome of it is going to lead to multipolarity, more multipolarity. Unfortunately, it's not going to strengthen the US as a hyperpower. US is slowly weakening itself because of its own strategic stupidity. And this war was one glaring example of strategic stupidity of United States regime that got seduced by Benjamin Netanyahu because no president over last 20 to 25 years got influenced by Bibi. In fact, when United States under Trump in his first term pulled US out of JCPOA under pressure from Netanyahu, that was the Himalayan blunder United States made because under JCPOA, which was negotiated internationally, the negotiations lasted almost 2 years. There was IAEA involvement. Russia and China both were parties to JCPOA because they didn't want even Iran to become nuclear power. But they also did not want US to, decimate that country. It was a very good agreement in which they were monitoring by IAEA inspectors, including US inspectors in Iran. So there were guardrails on Iranian weapons program, and mind you, the assassinated supreme leader Ali Khamenei, the Ayatollah, he had issued a fatwa that Iran will not develop nuclear weapons. So yes, you have enrichment program, but you did not have a weapons program. For them, it was national prestige that as a signatory to NPT, they have right to uranium enrichment and use it for civilian purposes. That was their, you know, stance. And JCPOA, despite its inadequacies, basically ensured that there will be international control. At that time, they had not even exceeded 20% enrichment. Now they have almost 60 or 70% enriched uranium because United States made by its own action JCPOA defunct. And that was under Benjamin Netanyahu's pressure. So we are again looking at the follies of a president who did not have any grounding in geopolitics, who was just a celebrity, a business person. You see the parallel in United States and in Ukraine. In Ukraine, by maneuvering public uprising, by funding through, you know, agencies, popular uprising and rebellion, you depose a democratically elected president in 2014. And in 2019, you elect a president whose claim to fame is that he is just a comedian and not actor. What has Ukraine got under this comedian? They basically squandered their country. It's burning, it's scorched. Half of the population has fled to other countries in Europe. And you are seeing similar thing in United States. United States is a very strong country, very strong power, but you are not realizing that economy is declining. Higher gas prices means that prices of milk are much higher. Every commodity, food prices are higher. People are feeling the pinch, and there is flight of capital. There's flight of jobs. And over next 2.5 years, this trend is likely to continue because of irrational policies, economic policies that are not tested, time tested. Tariff as a instrument of international relations never works. So ultimately, you will see this situation continuing. And if Iran can sustain itself in next 2.5 years, it will probably survive and the regime will be strengthened. But coming back to India, you cannot control actions of other countries, but you can adapt to the geopolitical situation. That is what Indian government is doing. And despite reservations of a lot of people, especially from the opposition, I think Indian government has done a fantastic job of diversifying the sources of hydrocarbons, number one. Number two, maintaining their stance of multi alignment and multipolarity. One thing where the opposition has been very hard on the Prime Minister of India that he has not criticized Donald Trump directly. I think there is some wisdom to it. There is some wisdom to it. You know, there's a saying, you know, you don't wrestle with a pig because pig loves it and you get dirtied. So what Indian Prime Minister is doing is not openly wrestling with the pig, but doing everything else so that Indian interests are not compromised.
So let me end with this. Russia and Iran are not just building a partnership, they are tasting a new world order where countries cooperate without commitment, support without sacrifice, and fight wars without officially entering them. So that was all for today, folks. If you have any question on your mind, please share with us. We'll answering those questions. If you like the video, please subscribe and click the bell icon and share the video with your friends and family. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Adityanji. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Sinha, for inviting me on Global Focus. My parting message to the viewers is that having strategic partnership does not mean a mutual defense treaty. And that's the naivete or naive belief most of the people think that strategic partnership means that you will have to enter into war. No, it doesn't happen like that.
Thank you, sir.